In this video, we're going to be taking a look at a design process when a customer sends us a logo. And, obviously we ask them, well, what do you envision the logo to look like, and how big do you want it, and what stone sizes do you want to use? So they give us all these details, and then we have to decide what's reasonable and what's not reasonable. Now, the more designs you do, the more designs that you're going to be able to look at and say, well, this is just not feasible. And so then we can report back to the customer, what's going to work and what's not going to work. And, maybe there's some things that we can suggest that they hadn't considered, where they kind of get what they were asking for originally, but in a little bit different way. And so I thought, well, this is a logo that was just sent to us, and I thought this would be a good logo to kind of go through and show you when we get these details, some of the exploratory things we do to say, hey, are we going to be able to create what the customer wants and have it look really good? So this looks like a simple enough design, but actually it's very, very complicated, because what the customer is asking for, I'm almost certain is not possible. And so that's kind of a drag. But let's look at it and kind of go through the process and see where the challenges are. So again, pretty basic logo. There are some things that really, really complicate matters. First of all, anytime you have the word wrestling, that scares me because there's an awful lot of letters to be dealt with there, and in a very small space. So that makes it challenging. So the customer says, well, first things first, they want the overall design to be 10 inches. So the first thing we're going to do is select our bitmap, come over here to the Specialty tab here in Easy Stone, and set this to be 10 inches wide. So we come here. If we go into wireframe mode, we can see this a little bit better. This particular bitmap, you can see, is actually cut right. So where the artwork ends, if you look at the wireframe here, that's where the bitmap ends. If you look at the bottom, you see the bottom, where the wire is right there, that little wireframe right there is right at the edge of wrestling, where up top, there's some white space there. Okay, so depending on the bitmap that you're working with, this one, we could just come up here and set it to 10 inches wide because the bitmap is cut right at the edge of our artwork. If the customer says, hey, I want this to be exactly 3 inches tall, I don't care how wide it is, but I want it to be exactly 3 inches tall, well, we can't just come in here and change the height to 3 inches because we have all this extra white space above, right? So generally speaking, when you're working with bitmaps, what we're going to do is we're going to just use Easy Stone to set this bitmap to be an exact width. So we select our bitmap, we come here to set size, we click visually right at the very left edge of our artwork, we click visually right at the very right edge of our artwork, we get this little box, and now we can set it to 10 inches because that's what the customer has requested. So we'll hit 10 inch and hit resize, and now we know that this is exactly 10 inches wide, our artwork. All right, so the next thing we want to talk about is the customer says, well, I want to use predominantly SS10 stones. And I already know from the many, many designs that I've done, to do this word wrestling and SS10 stones within 10 inches is challenging enough. So most likely the word wrestling is not going to be an SS10 stones unless we make a major change here, which we can definitely do. Just depends on how willing the customer is to change this artwork. My guess is it's probably going to be okay to change the artwork up a little bit. I have some ideas of what I might recommend to the customer. But so really where I'm going to focus in is on the word Butler. This is challenging because there's a lot of things going on here. This shadow scares the devil out of me because we only have 10 inches to work with. For the lettering, I personally would want at least 2 stones wide. And then the challenge of this shadow in that it's going to be tough. And then all of these weird things coming off the side of the B in Butler and the G in GT. And I would imagine that these are important design elements for the lettering and the logo. So what we're going to do is we're going to set our stone color. In this case, we'll use crystal. I'll tell you what, let's use hot pink. It'll show up a little bit better here in the video. So we'll use hot pink as our stone color. So we're just right clicking on our hot pink quick select color. We're going to set our stone color size. You can see right now it's set to 2.6, which is for SS6 stones. We need to right click on SS10 to set that to SS10 stone size. We'll come here to the stone drop down menu here and hit drop stone, and we'll drop one single stone. To get out of drop stone, we hit the escape key. So imagine, let's just start here with our letter E. If I come in here and let's just go ahead and set, just to give you an idea of where this becomes really complicated. So there is the start of our E, and you see all this right here, and this, you can see it's really going to complicate things. So let's just go ahead and just do it up here. Let's see here. Tell you what, let's lock our bitmap. Come to the specialty tab and lock it, and we're gonna have to do something different right away here. So let's delete these. Let's take this, because I don't think this is at enough of an angle here. So we'll shift that a little bit more. And let's pull this up to here. And what I'm finding with my letter E here, let's go ahead and delete that. You can see the problem. We need that dip right there. Let's go ahead and take these and create that. And so if we create the same dip here on the bottom, you can see that like so. Then here in the middle, we don't have much space to work with, do we? So if I come in here and I drop in this, so you can see we're going to already have to change the artwork quite dramatically. But all of this shadowing that's in the original artwork, we just don't have room for. And so sometimes what I'll do is I'll just do this much just to show the customer the complications. So let's go ahead and pull that away. And you can see that doesn't look bad as far as, you know, for a letter E, it doesn't look bad. But to get all the shadowing and everything else in there, that's going to be complicated to be able to do that. So when I first start out with this, and you can see already, this is set to 10 inches, but already look at how much we need that little extra on our E here. Now what we could do possibly, instead of going a whole stone width wide, what we could try to do, if that's not going to work out very well, is we could push these end stones, we could push it like a half a stone, maybe, and just space these stones out more. Let's try that, see if that will get us the look we're going for without having to go a full extra stone wide. That'll save us a little bit of width. But see the difference? Even though we push those out a little bit, I don't know if I like that as well as I did having the full stone width wide. That's really what we need to make it look right as far as I'm concerned. There's a big difference there in the way this looks compared to what we had. So it's going to be complicated to be able to do this in SS10 stones. It will be easier for us to do in SS6, but even in SS6 stones, it'll still be complicated, especially for all these extra details. So let's just go ahead and let's try. We've done the E in SS10. What if we did the R in SS6 and just kind of compared the difference? So for our R, we're going to do kind of the same thing. Let's set that to SS6. Let's go ahead and use our stone offset function here. Let's go ahead and move this up at an angle. Okay, and then we'll take these and move these up to the top of for our R up here. We'll go ahead and we'll fill in the gap here. We'll select that and hit delete stone paths. We will then copy this over to right here. You can see in the original artwork, we're going to drop. There is no, kick out here, but there is here. So we'll go ahead and leave that. Then we will take this, and I think I'll go ahead and just offset like so, and we'll offset like that. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually push this a little bit and then space these stones out horizontally. And here, really all we can do is drop one in the middle because that's all there's room for. And I'm a little concerned that we're not going to get this definition for our R in that scenario, but all we can do is all we can do. So let's just go ahead and try some different things here. Let's go ahead and pull this one out. Make some duplicates, space those out. And then we will copy these up. And yes, I'm guessing that we're not going to get the definition in our R the way we would really want to. Something that could help us get that definition in the R is to drop that down to well, I guess that's already an SS6. So we could pull this back. There we go. Now we're getting there. Let's go ahead and delete one stone and space these back apart again. That's better. And we can also bump that out. And that gives us that little... But you can see, just in this too, how difficult it's going to be to get the shadow in there. We can get the lettering pretty easy in SS6 tones, but to get the shadow also in there when there's no room for it, it's really challenging to get all these design elements in there the way the customer is going to want them. So we could go ahead and show them. We'll go ahead and space some things apart here. Show them what the options are, and at the end of the day, they have to pick what's going to work for them, if any of it. So maybe we could squeeze that in. We'll pull this over. We'll set these horizontally. We'll do that. And I'm just trying to mimic the original shadow here, just to kind of slap some stones in here to show the customer what their options are to get that shadow effect here. Do they like it? Do they not like it? And I guess I was going to do this up top here, but I guess I will. I guess I'll go ahead and do that. Alright, so now this gives them something to look at, some of the different options. Basically, we cannot do the shadowing around the E in SS10 stones. So that's out. We could maybe do it in SS6. I don't know. I'm not in love with it. But at least it gives the customer, to me, that doesn't, it doesn't really look like anything. So I would not probably recommend it. Just because, I just don't think it looks very good. But we'll try to make it look as good as we can. But you know, to me, the shadow doesn't add anything at that point. So it's very difficult design to do in such a confined space. There's just a lot of detail being packed in there. So at this point, I would stop the design process to say, okay, I've got to send this off to the customer. They've got to see kind of where we're going with it and make a decision, which direction do they want to go. Probably for me, I'm just going to go more basic with probably SS10 stones for the lettering and call it good. Maybe that shadow could be done in glitter. That's another option, because you could do glitter and stones pretty easy. Definitely would look better than this stone result. So at the end of the day, but the other thing too to look at too with this wrestling, it becomes really, really complicated. Even with SS6 stones, if we were to do this E, it's just really small. So it could be problematic because look at we just don't. How do you get all this detail in there to make it look with this style of E? There's really no way to do that because we don't have enough stones to work with. So what we could do is we could make the word wrestling bigger. So we could take this word wrestling and make it the same width as Butler GT, and then we would probably have enough room to get the detail in the word wrestling. But if the customer is set on having the wrestling smaller than Butler GT, well, then that becomes real problematic. And so what I'd probably do at that point is say, okay, well, let's do wrestling and glitter. Let's do Butler GT text and stones. And then let's try and do this shadow and glitter too. So that's just something for the customer to consider, take a look at, decide at the end of the day, which direction they want to go. But those are some of the design challenges that we have anytime that we get a logo in. Those are some of the things and considerations that we look at to say, is this feasible, what the customer is asking for? And sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. But we do have to go on a kind of an exploratory mission to take those parameters that customers give us and say, okay, can I make it work or can I not make it work? So I hope you enjoyed this one and learned a little bit about our thought process and design process that we go through when these logos are submitted, to decide whether or not the particular project is a feasible one or not. Thanks for watching.